key thing of SuSanA is to talk to each other, but please do so while seating. Take your seats. You might continue to talk, and you might have to shout because you're not sitting next to each other, but I'm continuing to speak because we are behind schedule only 20 minutes, and we'll take that away from your lunch break. So you have to eat in 5 minutes. And I'm just keeping on talking because that helps, that slowly some peace is coming. So great. Okay, welcome back after our small break, and I'm handing over to the moderators of the session. And that's you.
Testing, testing. Hello, good morning. I hope you guys had a good lunch break. One housekeeping note, it is hot in here, as you may have noticed, and the staff is working on turning on the AC. And so it'll take a few minutes, but you should be cool in a little bit. Once again, my name is Cheesy Igwe. I am work with Jennifer Williams on the Fecal Sludge Management Alliance, newly formed. So today's session, we're going to start with non-sewer sanitation systems and bring in an update from the FSM sector. So I'd like to introduce our two speakers for this afternoon. First is Jennifer Williams. She's recently joined the newly formed FSM Alliance as the Executive Director. And the Alliance was announced in Cape Town at FSM 5 in February of this year. Jennifer has led the organization of both FSM 4 and FSM 5 conferences. Prior to that, she spent about 7 years working on the water, sanitation, and hygiene teams at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And before that, she spent about 5 years working in various Seattle-based nonprofit organizations. She's originally from Seattle and has just moved to Bremen, Germany in July to begin her journey with the FSM Alliance. We also have Peter Hawkins, who you may be familiar with. He has had over 30 years of sanitation experience in both Africa and Asia. He spent 10 years at the World Bank WSP program working on urban sanitation. He's now an independent consultant and a founding member of the FSM Alliance, and he currently sits on our executive committee. So if we can give a round of applause for Peter and Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Cheesy. Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, okay, good. Oh, that's kind of weird. There's something in the middle of the screen here going on. Just click, okay. Okay, not seeing it here. So just quickly to introduce us, I think quite a lot of you are familiar with the FSM conferences that have been going since they started in South Africa, and it gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, over the course of the last year, we have sort of become independent so that we're not anybody's baby, we're our own baby now. We sign up to the vision of inclusive sanitation, and I think we're pretty consensual on this. Don't really need to go into that. I think we're all signed up to that. And our mission is to try and set the agenda, contribute to that, to promote inclusive sanitation, particularly non-sewage sanitation and fecal sludge management. But always linking up to the wider context of urban management, because you can't do one without the other. So we're looking very much for partners. We're a young organization, but we want to partner up with as many people as possible. So what are our jobs? I think I'll take the first and the third bullets together. Obviously, our big job is to look after the conferences, and Cheesy's going to be heading up that part of the operation. I think many of you have been to those conferences. It's a great place for networking and discussion and keeping up to date on what's happening in the world of fecal sludge management. And what we would like to branch out a bit more into now is perhaps into regional events and other events. Now that there are so many people, we had, I think, over 1,500 people for the last conferences. So it gets quite big and unwieldy. So possibly regional events or other events. It all depends really on what people want to do. But we would like to support that. And then we also want to focus a bit more on kind of mentoring and capacity building, bringing more people into the sector, helping to develop young professionals and all of the many small service providers and organizations that help with fecal sludge management. So how are we going to do that? As I've said, we're going to continue running the conference and supporting other events. With regard to knowledge and information and so on, we're very close to SuSanA. We're still working out how that relationship is going to work, but we're all very good friends. I'm sure we can make it work. And obviously with the huge amount of work going on in India, there's a kind of a whole separate arm of collaboration going on there with the fecal sludge and septage management people there. And again, I hope we'll be finding more partners, large partners to go into this kind of work. So that said, I will hand over to Jennifer, who is our Executive Director, and will be leading this whole effort. Jennifer.
Thanks, Peter. So as Peter gave kind of a general overview, I thought it would also be important to explain a little bit about the institutional host and why we're sitting in Bremen. So BORDA is the institutional host of the FSM Alliance. The founding committee really thought that it would be important to sit this secretariat within an existing organization to help drive work faster and to start making impact. So the conversation started over the course of 2018 and decided that this arrangement would be best if it shared some organizational infrastructure, so human resources, accounting, finance, things like that. Also preferred an organization that had offices in the Southern Hemisphere. And so through that discussion, BORDA offered to host the FSM Alliance for a 3-year period. And then, fortunately, in June of 2019, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation became the first strategic partner of the Alliance, funding 4 full-time staff members for 3 years. And also in June, an application was submitted to create a new legal entity registered within Germany. That application is currently pending, so we are hopeful to hear by the end of the month. And then we will also be a registered I don't know the not-for-profit limited liable corporation. Yeah. So that's just kind of how we're operating currently. This is the general organizational structure. So eventually there will be members. We're still defining how we're going to member benefits and how we're going to intake those members. So as we mentioned, it's a fairly young organization. It was announced in February of this year, but really didn't start until about July to become fully operational. So BORDA, as the institutional host, does get a seat on the executive committee. And then also we have some subcommittees as well, one on strategic partnerships and, of course, the conference committee. So as I mentioned, it will be a membership organization, and there will be 3 types of partnership within the FSM Alliance. The most influential type of member is called a strategic partner, and they will be contributing a significant amount of resources to core operations, so not earmarked for a specific project. It's a key distinction we'd like to make. And they will get to hold a seat on the executive committee. There are up to 5 seats on the executive committee out of 13 that will be reserved for strategic partners. But it is a minimum of 50,000 euros per year. There will also be organizational members who will, depending on their annual expenditure, will have a kind of scale membership fee. An individual will be nominated to represent other organizational members on the executive committee as well. The same goes for individual members, so they will also get a nominated representative to sit on the executive committee, and the membership fee will be will be around €100 and including a student fee as well. So more to come on that. We're, like I said, still working that out, all the details, but are looking forward to growing this community of practice. So one of the very first meetings actually that we took was I traveled to Bonn and to Eschborn to meet with the GIZ and the SuSanA Secretariat. And our 3-day workshop consisted around how we are going to work together. I think you saw from our vision and mission statement, it's not unique to the folks in this room. So really came to that workshop with the aim of thinking about how we can be collaborative and not competitive, and how we can, SuSanA and the FSM Alliance can work together to bring everyone together in the sector. So we focused on 4 key areas: knowledge and evidence, sector tools, conferences and events, and networking. SuSanA will remain the knowledge hub. It has always been the knowledge hub of the sector. It didn't make a lot of sense to reinvent something that's already existing with a rich library of materials and resources. There could be possible joint publications and potentially contributing and participating in the FSM discussion threads on the SuSanA portal. We also want to try to link together various sector tools so that they can be a comprehensive and complete set of planning tools for those looking for them. And of course, finding ways to work together at conferences and events, much like Stockholm or the FSM conferences. I know a few of the SuSanA meetings have happened at the FSM conference as well. And how can we support regional meetings? The SuSanA Secretariat and the FSM have already jointly organized the pit emptying challenge in Lusaka. That happened, I think, in June this year. Yeah, and then also networking, as we mentioned, so supporting young professionals, women's sanitation groups at both the regional and the global level. Yeah, so this is us. Please feel free to find Cheesy or myself if you have any other questions.
Thank you again to both Jennifer and Peter for your time. We're going to transition a bit, still looking at FSM. We're going to talk about the FSM toolbox and what updates exist there. And I'm going to invite Jennifer back to the stage, as well as, I apologize if I pronounce your name incorrectly, Deepa Karthykeyan. So let me briefly introduce Deepa. She leads the Urban Infrastructure and Governance practice at Athena Infonomics, a global consulting firm with a focus on leveraging the role of technology and social science research in responding to development challenges and aiding growth strategies. Deepa has been instrumental in developing and leading a number of multidisciplinary programs in both Asia and Africa, so I'd like to welcome her to the stage, and Jennifer as well.
Thank you, Cheesy. Roshan Shrestha was actually going to do this brief overview and introduction. His flight was delayed, so I am stepping in for him. And I also wanted to just give a shout out to Kitch, because my luggage also didn't arrive yet, so I had to run to the mall yesterday to get a new shirt. Yes, so some exciting news actually. Many of you are familiar with the FSM Toolbox. You may have been solicited for giving feedback on it. The FSM Toolbox will actually shift to the FSM Alliance. The FSM Alliance will be better positioned to engage users, help disseminate it more broadly, but more importantly to get active feedback from the users and work on continuous improvement. So that is the main reason why it's moving. But Roshan wanted me to also thank all of those who have worked on the toolbox to date, including the Asian Institute of Technology, AVOG, Athena, obviously, and all of you who have given feedback over the course of many years. So looking forward to really trying to connect this set of tools to actual implementers. With that, I will hand it over to Deepa.
Thank you, Jennifer. Great. So, yes, I think before I sort of go into presenting, how many of you have never heard of the FSM Toolbox before? Could you please raise your hands? Okay, great. Actually, this is really promising. Thank you. So I wanted to do that before I went in. I think the FSM toolbox was designed, and there are several organizations that have contributed to its evolution. But the motivation was really to say, can there be a place that practitioners, researchers, anybody wanting to think about decisions in the non-sewer sanitation space, is there a place they could go to get technical guidance or some assistance in terms of thinking about the questions that they have to think about? Before I step into sort of really the platform and sharing updates on where we stand, I think this question, I get asked this question all the time. So I thought it's important to just put it out there and preempt why a FSM toolbox, right? I think particularly given that, as I think practitioners, as policymakers, the folks in this room, sanitation's larger than non-sewer sanitation. It has a host of potential ways in which you can intervene to make things better. But why FSM, and why a toolbox that focuses almost exclusively on fecal sludge management or non-sewer sanitation? And the little phrase at the bottom really summarizes the motivation for why. If you really, and we've spoken to MDs of utilities, we've talked to heads of city governments, and when we talk about fecal sludge management, we say, oh, so much of your city is dependent on on-site systems, so we have to manage it. So there's this emotional undertone to it, and then they turn around and say, so what? Now what should we do? What do we have technical standards, evidence, systematic processes that are out there that can tell us how to think about managing on-site systems? And to be honest, there aren't that many out there in the public domain that is adequately mainstreamed or is fairly common knowledge or is familiar to a lot of the practitioners. So we said, let's have an FSM toolbox, a place that focuses almost exclusively on technical standards for intervening in the fecal sludge or the non-sewer sanitation space. The platform started by sort of quickly capturing use case motivations. What do people do when you say we have to make decisions on managing fecal sludge, or when we say we have to manage on-site systems better? What are the sorts of things that practitioners or potentially the folks who might want technical guidance, what do they do, right? So often we discovered from our conversations and with users, potential users, that we start with a citywide assessment. And the SFT, for example, is a really powerful starting point. It allows you to quickly visualize what's happening in your particular context, your city, state, region, on the way fecal sludge is currently being managed. So we said we need a single product that will allow us to do this well. There is a lot of focus on being able to capture and analyze who are the most important stakeholders that we need to engage with when we want to think about advocacy or moving the needle. That's another use case that came out. We want to shortlist and say, hey, we've done the citywide assessment. We know here are the gaps. What can we do about those challenges? So some technical guidance in terms of being able to think about planning these interventions. And finally, implementation, which is, hey, I know I want to build a treatment plant, or I want to be able to co-treat my waste at this particular facility. So how can I now think about that decision, right? So to be able to sort of put out a terms of reference, to procure the right agencies, to think about how this will get financed, to monitor the way the program's doing. And then you come back and assess. You come back and say, hey, have I moved the needle? We've discovered, and again, this is just a conversation, these were some of the most prominent use case motivations that we came across. We might be missing a lot in here, and I think this is also a great forum to have a quick conversation about that. There are a number of tools that were available globally that did these things. Here are some examples. You have the SFD, Peter and Isabel, they're working on, and they've led the CSDA. I don't have enough time to go into each of these tools, but I just want to point out that for every single use case motivation, in some sense, we have a number of tools. And Athena's mandate, when we were brought on board by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, was to say, this is way too confusing. We have 4 different tools that all, for instance, claim or support with city-wide assessments. Can we simplify? Can we create more cohesion? Can we consolidate and say, hey, here are the overlaps, so why not sort of build on all of these different tools and the frames of references that they provide to create modules, one go-to module, potentially, that practitioners can go to when they want to think about these use case motivations. So what the platform has today is we've taken all those gray boxes out there and we've attempted to say, hey, we'll build on all of those. We're not losing that information, but we'll have one citywide assessment tool that US practitioners can go to when you want to do a citywide assessment. For fecal sludge management, a tool that will allow you to map stakeholders. We have 4 distinct questions that we have planning tools that will help you address the type of toilets and containment units that could be built, a decision support tool that will help you think about the type of trucks and the number of trucks that you need to procure to manage waste, a tool that will help you think about what sorts of treatment technology might broadly work, think about sizing based on FS generation estimates, and a tool around business models that will help you think about the sorts of business models that are most relevant. We have, again, another thing, on the FSM toolbox, we discovered it's one thing to want to do a citywide assessment based on a standard framework, but it's another, a user request that we constantly received as we started testing this was to say, hey, we want to be able to monitor our programs more seamlessly. We want to be able to collect more data than what's just prescribed in your research instruments. So we've created a module that will allow you, that will also serve as an MEL, a monitoring and learning tool, which will allow you to customize your own KPIs and track your progress across programs, and a library of resources that has over 1,400 terms of references, manuals, documents across the world on fecal sludge management that's up there. I may not have time to talk about each of these tools, but really the citywide assessment tool, all I'd like to do is emphasize that it not just captures, for example, the SFD plays a big role in that blue infographic you see in the middle, which is really material flows, but the citywide assessment tool tries to go beyond that and look at social flows and assess the overall environment for fecal sludge management in your city. The stakeholder mapping tool allows you to capture stakeholders by interest and influence. These are the questions that for which we have tools on the platform and a module that will help you evaluate different business models and the relevance of those business models to your context, and an MEL, a program monitoring and learning tool that will allow you to design customized, set up customized monitoring dashboards for your programs. These are some of the national anchors that are already working or collaborating with us and the Alliance to take this forward. A whole bunch of cities that have signed up to using some of these tools, with a couple of cities in Bangladesh already beginning work in that direction. Some quick next steps. We certainly want to, and I think Jennifer and Peter touched upon this as well, really look at ways in which the toolbox and what's there on the toolbox can speak better to global platforms like the SFT, to think about updating the tools like the CSDA, I'm happy to talk about this, to reflect, let's say, the changes that folks and experts like Peter and Isabel have been working on, and to make sure we're constantly looking at evolving standards, technical standards, and making sure that we have tools that reflect those technical standards on the platform. It's impossible to cover this in 10 minutes, but we're available. Please reach out to me or to Jennifer in the break. We're most happy to do a demo, a virtual demo of everything that's on the platform. You can log in. It's available. It's online. It's www.fsmtoolbox.com. These tools are also available in French, Lao, and Bangla as well, in addition to English. So thank you very much, and I hope several of you in this room will sign up and explore the dashboard and the tools and give us feedback. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deepa. We're still continuing with that discussion on fecal sludge management. So the next session is going to be looking at the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge and Expo, as well as updates from the sector in Cox Bazar situation. And the two colleagues that are going to be presenting, one of them, I think, as Madeleine mentioned, can also be described as one of those sanitation fossils. The first time I met Heinz-Peter Mang was at World Water Week 2014, and I was on a panel with him. And so when he was introduced as somebody with 40 years of experience in ecological sanitation, waste management, biogas and bioenergy systems, and I was thinking, okay, how do I level up to that? So to try to balance the numbers up, I was like, okay, I have also been working in sanitation for 18 months. Anyway, but probably he doesn't need much introduction to many of you. He's presently guest professor at the University of Science and Technology in Beijing, and is also guiding the technical assistance consulting team that is guiding grantees of the humanitarian response, emergency response support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And is here with his colleague, Ryndin, who also has an environmental engineering background from the University of Science and Technology in Beijing, and has worked in Samoa and presently as well in Bangladesh and Bola on the Cox Bazar with work also on the Center for Sustainable and Environmental Sanitation. So join me and welcome them.
Perfect. Hi. Hello, everybody. What I'd like to present is the current update on fecal sludge treatment in Cox's Bazar. But first of all, I would like to introduce UPM. Maybe you know it's not well known yet. And UPM is a private company, which is a consulting company working for based in Munich and Beijing. And yeah, basically we're providing technical assistance to the Gates Foundation together with our partners like University of Science and Technology in Beijing, and also with Bangladesh Agricultural University. And we are doing the assistance for the wash sector currently in Cox's Bazar. And I would like to introduce the situation. Earlier, 2018, when the work started, and to show you the progress and incredible work done by the wash sector itself during 1 year period, 2018, when we just came, there was already 628,000 people, and the treatment capacity, the fecal sludge producer to be treated was almost 10,000 cubic meter per month, and treatment capacity was way less. The gap of 6,500 cubic meter per month. And now the situation middle 2019, it's quite improved due to the effort of the wash sector. And even if the population has increased to almost 1 million people, therefore also the fecal sludge production, but also the treatment capacity through the work of the wash sector in Cox's Bazar. And the gap is getting less. It's a positive, and then also the planning capacity is increasing. Well, there's still a few challenges. One of those is the to close the gap on the camp level, so some area are not yet covered by the treatment capacity. And another is the synchronizing the treatment activities and services for the wash sector itself. And the wash sector did mapping, assessing the capacity, analyzing the gaps within each of the camp area, and synchronizing currently with the wash sector. during the technical working group and work sector meetings. This is the situation in the field. With the left you see the number of the fecal sludge treatment plants, and right you see the current treatment capacity per week. So the biggest in the numbers is the biogas, but yeah, it's not, but still low treatment capacity, and the biggest three is the solid separation unit, line treatment, and anaerobic filter. Those are confirmed and in planning, so in numbers again, and also in the treatment capacity, and yeah, the planet's fecal sludge treatment plants are the anaerobic buffer reactor and yeah, anaerobic filter, and the others, so many different types of the treatment. What UPM has done was assessment and characterization study of the fecal sludge itself. I will not go into detail into those information, and I just put it in so you can see, because I guess the presentation will be distributed later on. So I just make it brief. Just a few pictures, and also the treatments in effluents and the reduction rates of the different technologies we have also assessed. For the technologies, this is a snapshot and during our field work. And currently the work sector is working to establish a laboratory together with EVAC, and yeah, there will be frequent and monitoring of the fecal sludge treatment plants in the Cox's Bazar. So this is the different, as you might see, there's still some issues with the quality of the effluent. The effluent quality is can be compared like a medium and high strength municipal wastewater. And the effective technology for the pathogen reduction is the lime treatment, but it has also another, yeah, we have also activated sludge system, and yeah, but for the lime treatment, as you see, this study done by Arup, it has the highest whole life cost for 10 years. So it's quite expensive. And if you see that upflow filters and ABR, according to this study, together with the biogas, has the lowest whole life cost. This is the eutrophication potential expressed in kilogram per cubic meter. And you see also that basically the ABR and anaerobic treatment has quite a reduction compared, for example, with the light treatment drying beds, but it's still not reaching the standards required by the Bangladesh government, and work needs to be done. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity to give you an overview about the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge China. You know what is RTTC is. Reinvent the Toilet Challenge started a long time ago from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and in China we started 2013 to develop in several rounds new toilet systems which are fulfilling the standards requested under the foundation's website. You can see it, I will not repeat it. We are doing this as a grant under grant of the foundation, and we have sub-grantees, more than 20 sub-grantees, which are groups which are mixed by industry and research institutions in China. And yeah, the criteria for the evaluation was all that the concept for action, what the sub-grant is presenting, has a very high potential to address the challenges as they are defined, to be innovative, as also the definition, the technical definition under the foundations, and to be implemented in accordance with timetable as elaborated in their concept note, that the result in sanitation systems that meets the needs and demands of the final beneficiary, technical feasible, commercial viable, result in a core and business model that could be replicated in other countries, especially Southeast Asia, South Asia and Africa, positive environmental impact, and a positive social and gender equality impact. From the 22 toilet developments, 10 were evaluated because has reached the technology readiness level relatively high, so it's ready for commercialization. And from these 10 have been visited, including the office where it was designed, laboratories with questionnaires, further documents, and so on. We created an evaluation team, an external team, which was guided by WASH United here from Germany, then the German Society for Sustainable Biogas and Bioenergy Utilization, the Shanghai Urban Construction Design and Research Institute, and the Chinese Academy of Science. So this was the evaluation team which evaluated these 10 toilets. The innovation of the toilets, maybe you have never heard about some of them. The first is a biodegradable liquid concentrate. It's something new developed. Then a zero energy toilet, which based on fine bamboo particles. Activated human bacteria toilet. The development of electrode for fuel cells is the innovation. Activated bacteria membrane and also bacteria membrane and aeration. Bio-oil production as a subproduct, the combination of forward osmosis and biochar production, and also MAP and TAC as a subproduct. The innovations toilet, I will show you some of this the toilet as an example before I give you the result of the evaluation. This is innovation toilet from Kunming, it's a private company. It's a biological foam toilet where the result is a liquid concentrate which can be easily recycled as a nutrition recovery liquid. And all the toilets are fulfilling the standards, also less than 5 cents per user per day, operational and OPEX, CAPEX. All the criteria what I mentioned in the beginning, they are all fulfilling because if not, they are not selected. This innovation is a fine bamboo agent and the zero energy because this motor was later replaced by a manual pedal driven mixer, and then it reached the zero energy demand even. These are a toilet which is used for household and public toilet. Others maybe are mainly public toilets. Another toilet is an activated human bacteria toilet. It's from Dalian. Also here could fulfill both. It's a mix between composting and a leachate recovering. This is innovation from Suzhou Clear, one of the leading with the public toilets. It's a MBR and a dual membrane with rotational disc, but it's not able for a household, it's mainly public toilet. This is now also the first which was selected to be tested under South African condition. Another Dalian wet system is activated human bacteria. It's a system which is only for public toilets per households. We think it's not viable. That is the Beijing University of Chemical Engineering. Bio-oil, very high innovative, but we think it's not very well manageable. We'll see later. This is one of the leading futures, the hydrothermal liquid, because here the feces going directly from an air flush toilet directly in the treatment system, and at the end you have biochar, you have oil, and you have water. So directly in one process, everything done. We think this is a model for the future. That is also another innovation, combined forward osmosis and biochar in a full closed loop. And we have electrodes development for fuel cells from Shanghai. So these are now different combinations. That means we have possibility to combine different toilets under the ISO standard for non-sewerage sanitation, different front end and back end unit, and that can be combined. And there we have worked with the different participants in the sector how to combine different routes. You can find here any combination that depends what final product you want to have. Then at the end, we have an overview from our evaluation. That means we think the Kunming, for example, is a toilet which can be all over the world, can be constructed, has very low costs, and is recommended for international transfer by the team. The air flush toilet is also recommended for international transfer, even if it's probably an import toilet, but the parts which are used can be all over procured. So Hyundai Haiso is a local manufactured, can also be promoted. The wet system, we say here the owner is not interested to sell a system outside of China. So that is no interest. The university has enough demand in China. We have the toilet revolution. University of Shanghai with MFC and MSc needs still a lot of research to be internationally compatible. The Tsinghua University, so first they themselves, they cut it out. They said it's not feasible for international. The route 2 with biochar, they said it's possible, but needs also some research. University of Geoscience, the technology is not ready for international marketing. The chemical toilet, Beijing University of Chemical Toilet, they stopped their research also. And the Agricultural University, yes, but requires local partnership. And Zushu Clear, yes, absolutely, but it's something which is produced still in China, and they should look for local partners. Based on this, we can say, as a resume, the companies are more focused on small innovations instead of looking at the big change. But the reason why they have done it is to increase their market advantage. Yeah, so universities looking mainly on new designs and new tests, and you see 3 systems have been taken out during the evaluation. The acceptability, that is from the evaluator also, user interface, the UI and version and foam toilet might be face user resistance. Hand washing is often not available. They forgot to install the hand washing. Accessibility, some model requires steps. Then it's mainly designed for wipers and not for washers. So it's also a question. Women and girls sanitary napkins need to be separated. We have no smell detected by any of the toilets, but of course limited visits for the pilot systems. Practical, the companies are ready for a China market. Only some not, but the main companies, yes. The main market entry is in China. We have the Chinese toilet revolution. That means the Chinese government is buying now preferable this kind of toilets for the public services in the tourism, because they are all fulfilling ISO standard 3 for non-sewerage sanitation. And we are working now as university, we are guiding the Chinese standard committee to develop a national standard which is based on the ISO standard, translated in local. The public toilet, as I said, the government is a key customer actually, so money is not the issue because they are buying hundreds to install it in the tourist areas. And water reuse system, of course, but mainly is recycling for flushing, what we found. Big market is for individual rural household toilets, but single household systems are not yet viable. That means there is a market, but we cannot respond this with these models as an individual toilet. Outside China, it's still challenging. That means it's only relevant for B2B, not selling directly. Language is still a huge barrier with Chinese companies. Aspects are not known, lack of international and so weiter. And at the end, based on this, we created a blue book of an African toilet revolution. That means with support from the foundation, we selected a partner country, Ghana, and the private sector in Ghana, and we are starting now to develop with the private sector the way forward, a kind of testing scenario for these toilets to sell them in Ghana. And this is from this African Blue Book, we are calling it. It's under development, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Heinz-Peter. I am very happy to announce that presently at least 5 people are watching the live stream. So I would like to sound a call to arms for those of you with colleagues that are still stuck in airports or those that are at home and not coming for World Water Week. Please tweet them, Facebook them, DM them, WhatsApp them, the link to the live stream so that they can be part of this very momentous occasion of the 28th SuSanA meeting. If you are using social media, the hashtag is SuSanA28, so that we are not just limited to the History Museum, we are communicating with the entire world. So the chief live stream member, who as usual is Elizabeth, in Australia, has put up a comment that why a presentation is going on without discussion. Has SuSanA become dictatorial and not democratic? I would like to report right now, both here and to our online audience, that we are going to be having questions at the end of a group of presentations. So if you have questions, take note of them, and we shall have them addressed. So the next person that is going to be presenting still in this FSM question, and I'm happy to report this is the last one before we have a couple of questions and then lunch, is Shobana Srinivasan, who has a wash engineering background and has worked also a lot with knowledge management. She was involved in the SuSanA Phase 3 project and is currently based at BORDA, where she works with developing synergies with sanitation-related alliances and networks and knowledge management. She's worked in very many parts of the world, Europe, South Asia, and East Africa, including my very own home country, Uganda. Please join me and welcome Shobana.
Hi, everyone. Actually, Madeline and Daniel was mentioning something about sanitation fossils, like a few people here. From up here, everyone looks like a real fossil to me because I didn't wear my glasses today. Yeah, so let's get to the presentation. Pit emptying challenge. So before we talk about the challenge, I would like to talk about the problem. We all know that sanitation workers and ground practitioners are often the missing link in sanitation service delivery, and they're often stigmatized and their jobs are not guaranteed. They're mostly working contract-based, not paid well, and most of them lack personal protective equipment and are not trained or monitored properly. And this is jeopardizing their lives and their health. Now, when you take a look at this operator skills challenge and its background, we started in 2017 with FSM 4, where it was first held, and then we also continued because of its success in FSM 5, and then we went to a regional level in Zambia this June, like Jennifer mentioned previously. And this challenge is mainly to instill recognition for sanitation workers in the field. Oops, sorry. I skipped to the end by mistake. Yeah, so what is the pit emptying challenge? So I'm actually tempted to say that it's a crazy challenge where you empty a bucket of pee and poo on your head, but it's unfortunately not. And it's a professional challenge where people from different utilities and private sectors compete against each other, where we create a mock, we attempt to create a mock setup of real life, of their daily work where they actually collect and transport fecal sludge. And the emphasis here is on using and doing it the right way by using personal protective equipment and also in a monitored way where there are judges who are actually seeing how they do every process. Yeah, when coming to the purpose, like why do we do this challenge? I mentioned the problems in the first slide, and it is to combat all these problems that sanitation workers face in terms of elevating their profile, removing stigmatism, and also showing how difficult their work is, and raising awareness on this topic, and also emphasizing the fact that we need more professionals and ground practitioners to actually achieve access to sanitation. One important thing I would like to tell here is that we're not only looking at closing the sanitation value chain, but also closing the stakeholder loop. There you see a picture of the water minister in Zambia handing prizes to pit emptiers after the challenge. Now, what is our long-term vision? As we speak now, there are representatives at the WorldSkill Kazan trying to look at feasibility to integrate this non-sewage sanitation into WorldSkills, where people from all over the world represent different skills in a common platform. And it is also done to elevate the image of sanitation workers and to provide more job opportunities to them in the sector, and also try to strengthen sanitation systems through a bottom-up approach. So what does the setup look like? So we hold this pit emptying challenge in conferences, but we try to mimic the real life situation as much as possible by providing a stage. And to go in detail, we have like a simulated pit latrine that is elevated with a fake plinth, and where the challengers can dig through the synthetic fecal sludge that we create. And often we also use real life situations like snakes, of course, rubber snakes or silicone snakes in the pit. And when you take a look at the fecal sludge, the synthetic sludge we use, if we are indoors, we try to make the sludge dry because it's a conference area and needs to be cleaned up. If it's outdoor, we try to make it a bit more runny or liquid to look like the real sludge. And while this is how the transport scenario looks like, we attempt to simulate the conditions just like an informal settlement. And there you see that there is some spilled sludge, which is cleaned using a proper way, that is, it is disinfected first with lime and then scooped out. And then finally, once they're through this challenge, they have to empty the sludge barrel that they have, or they load it safely into the truck, into a mock truck. Last but not the least, before they finish this challenge, they are supposed to disinfect themselves and their equipment and their protective gear as the final step. And we always have mobile judges who are running around making sure that they're scored properly on safety, efficiency, effectiveness, and the correct way to empty a pit. So when you take a look at the prices, we are trying to make the prices much more efficient in terms of giving learning exchanges within the utilities, within the prize winners, and also proper training and certification, taking them to a further level high up, and also the possibility to be represented at the WorldSkills, hopefully, in 2021 in Shanghai, China. Yeah, so it was a short presentation. Let's make the life better for sanitation workers. And yeah, here you see a sanitation worker actually having fun in the conference in Zambia. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully we have some questions from the group. If you have a question, raise your hand and please introduce yourself and let us know who your question's for, and Daniel will come by to give you the microphone. And then for any of the speakers, if you're able to address the questions asked to you, that would be appreciated. So I saw a hand up over here.
Thanks, Dorothy Spuler, Eawag. I have a question regarding the FSM toolbox. Is there a case study illustrating for others how it can be used?
Yeah, sure. So right now we have brief 2-minute videos on the website that sort of show the product workflow, like what does the data entry sheet look like? How do you navigate from, let's say, the first web page to the second? That's what we have. That's already there online, and you can see it. And again, that's available in all of those languages that I just mentioned. But we've discovered that some of the tools might require more, particularly the planning tools, for instance. I think the Emily tools and the assessment tools are simpler, and a video is sometimes good enough. But I've discovered that the folks who want to come back and get a virtual demo and some more hand-holding are the ones who are trying to use the planning tools. And that we have sort of a virtual or an in-person training intercept for.
I see a question over here.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the advantage to be member of the FSMA? We are representing, as a university, we are member of the China National Alliance for Fecal Sludge, Urban Fecal Sludge Management and Kitchen Waste Treatment. And I'm asking myself, what is the argument to convince this huge, big network in China to be member? But I don't find any argument now, so I want to learn.
Yeah, thanks, Heinz-Peter. We are actually in the process of defining those membership benefits right now. We know that we need to create a unique set of member benefits. One of the things that we're potentially looking into would be maybe a discount on the conferences, similar to the IWA model. And it could also be potentially just having some conversations actually this week on would your membership maybe include some additional training or consulting hours associated with the FSM toolbox that would give you an additional, all the planning tools will of course be available for free and open to everyone, but your membership may give you some additional resources and support to actually implement the use.
Yes, Arne. As always, Heinz-Peter, you make us curious. And you're behind the language barrier, and we'll get the presentations with the knowledge management, but where to get further updates on things we haven't heard about before?
Yeah, okay, because up to 2007, China was more integrated in this national and international networking by translation work, where vice versa was translated. But then this link was lost, and the Chinese researchers normally are not used to translate their work in English, because the market is big enough, and that's the reason why China has a third time now the so-called toilet revolution, to abandon all old toilet system, old-fashioned systems, non-hygienic systems in urban and rural settings, and that creates a huge market for the industry. And that is also the reason why many industries are not interested even to export. They said, our market is big enough, why to make it too complicated? Why we have to speak English? No, let's do the Chinese market, it's big enough. And that is a big barrier. And we have for everything alliances. We have for fecal sludge, for sewage sludge, for wastewater treatment. The industries association exists, and we are trying to follow up as a university to be member of the key associations. But as I said, it's more one way. China is going out with the association to learn from other countries. Yeah, after next week, we have the first time that the foundation comes with a very big team from 7 people from Seattle, and they want now to learn from China, and we organized now an opposite tour.
Some hope maybe is as well in your blue book, and to learn along with that.
So this the last question right now, and then we go out. It's coming from our online participants, from Patrick Bracken, and it was addressed, I think, to the earlier presentation by Vinod about Swachh Bharat mission in India. So it's, how is ODF defined in the urban Indian context? And I'm informed that Vinod has left previously, but probably somebody with experience from the Indian sanitation sector that could respond to this question, or how is ODF defined in the urban Indian sanitation sector?
Okay, I can give the wrong answer, and then and then you can say that no, that's too wrong. You have to step in. I know that sort of the number of available toilets plays a role, and sort of it's on that, and it's concentrating as well on making new and existing toilets available. And I think then you can click a box and say that now we are done. And that's why it's so important that now there's ODF plus and ODF plus plus and so on, which is going beyond the toilet. That's oversimplified, but will you correct me or will you leave it like that? Okay, Vishwanath is leaving it like that. Okay, so I think that's the short answer. Patrick, I hope that is a starting point.
Okay, so that concludes our discussion section. If you do have any other questions, feel free to find your colleagues in the room and talk directly. We will be going to lunch, but beforehand, if we give one more round of applause / a note over here. One more round of applause to our speakers from this morning.
I know. There's no lunch. First, there's the group photo. The better you organize yourself to be outside in the garden and be in a position where you can be part of the group photo, the earlier you get lunch. Yes, okay, let's run. Something else?
I would need the working group leads who would steer the discussions after the group photo and gather here for a short briefing. Thanks.